Hey Modrunners, welcome back to another episode. Today's episode we're going to be talking about scuba regulators. Scuba regulators are what we use to breathe underwater. The most important thing about a scuba regulator is the ease of breathing. Regulators run from costs of anywhere between say $200 all the way up to over $1,000. You do not need to spend a lot on a regulator. However, you do want something that delivers air as easy as possible. And generally, the more expensive you get, that's what the effect of the ease of breathing is. I describe it this way. Think about sucking air through a straw. You can either have a big old fat McDonald's straw, or you can have like a coffee stir straw. Coffee stir straw is going to be a little bit more difficult to breathe the air in. Big old fat McDonald's straw, air goes in. Very similar kind of that aspect of getting a regulator. I have a couple of different regulators here, two different brands, but there are lots of different companies out there. This one is made by Apex. This one is made by Mares. They're both really high-end regulators, but you don't need to spend a lot to get a good regulator. Regulators are broken down into a couple of different categories. First, you have balanced and unbalanced. And then you have a diaphragm and a piston. I recommend all new students, new scuba divers, to get at least a balanced regulator. And what that means is that when you go down underwater, the high pressure from your scuba cylinder, let's say it's 3,000 psi. It turns it into the ambient pressure. So no matter what depth you're at, let's say you're at 30 feet, let's say you're at 100 feet, no matter what depth, that ambient pressure, it's going to deliver air the same effective way no matter what depth. An unbalanced regulator, the deeper you go, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to breathe in the air. Without getting into details on how a regulator works, I'm going to give you just the basics on actually buying a regulator. So you have your balanced and you have your unbalanced, and you have your piston and you have your diaphragm. And if you think of a piston like the car piston, it's a piston that goes in and out. It's affected by the particles in the water and other things like that, so it has a little bit more wear and tear. I like diaphragm regulators, and these are talking about the first stage. A regulator is broken down into two stages. You have your first stage and you have your second stage, and we'll get into that in a second. I typically like the diaphragm because they're generally environmentally sealed for the most part. So the sand, because I do a lot of beach diving, sand and particles aren't going to affect it as much, especially this particular regulator, which is completely environmentally sealed. So if I wanted to take it ice diving, this is completely environmentally sealed. That's beside the point. So you have your balanced, you have your unbalanced, and generally the unbalanced regulators are the lower end in terms of cost. Balanced regulators are going to be a little more expensive. And then you have your secondary, which is delivering system. The high pressure, the first stage, takes your high pressure from your cylinder, turns it into ambient pressure, generally about 140, and then it goes down into the second stage, which the second stage is designed to, it's got a diaphragm on the inside here. When I breathe in, it creates a suction. The diaphragm is pulled in, it pulls a lever on the inside, and then that delivers the air. In fact, I can show you more specifically on this particular, this is my secondary, my octopus, my alternate air source. I can show you exactly how that works. Basically, here is my diaphragm. I breathe in, it creates the suction, and it pushes this lever right here, and this lever is what allows the air to flow, so that when I breathe in, it creates, the air flows, and I can just breathe in nice and easily. So that's basically how it works. When you're purchasing a regulator, you want to get the best regulator you can afford. If you can only afford a $200 regulator, then that's the regulator you get. If you can afford something a little bit more, you can invest a little bit more into something, then I would recommend you doing that. Both of these regulators retail about $500–600, so it's kind of not the most expensive, but it's also not the least expensive regulator. The neat thing about this particular regulator, and this is the Apex, the ATX 200, is that it has an adjustment knob on the side here, so that if I close it off completely, it still flows. I can still breathe in, but it's creates a little bit more of a pressure to be able to breathe in the air. If I open it up all the way, then it's actually super easy. Now, I typically have it right around in the middle, plus a little bit more ease of breathing. This guy here is the Venturi Adjust, so that when I'm going out through the surf, if I take my regulator out of my mouth, it helps prevent on the free flowing, and then when I'm actually underwater, I flip it so that it creates that Venturi effect, which basically spins and actually creates the air so that it makes the air flow a lot easier. The idea is this, is that when you're scuba diving, you want it to be as easy to breathe from your regulator as it is to breathe, above the water, as if, I'm breathing right now. So when I take that breath in, I want that ease of flow to come just as easily. Because when I'm underwater, I don't want to work really hard. I want to be relaxed. The more relaxed, the more zen you are, the easier it is to breathe, and the better air consumption you will have when you're underwater. So purchasing your regulators, remember, the number one thing about purchasing a regulator is the ease of breathing. It doesn't matter how many knobs it has or what kind of Venturi system it has. It's the ease of breathing, first off. Second, you want to get the best you can afford, but you don't need to spend a lot to get a good regulator. The Mars regulator here, this adjustment, this little mechanical doesn't have a knob. It actually is going to flow through this way and through this way to create this kind of vortex, and it's what they call the Venturi Assist system, so that it kind of meets in the middle, and then when you breathe, no matter what level you're at, it's always going to breathe. So if you're breathing really hard, it's going to flow just as easily as if you were breathing nice and easy. And that's kind of the benefit of this particular regulator. You can look about benefits, bells and whistles online. Each manufacturer loves to talk about their flow system and all those things. You can check out their statistics online. But remember, it's the ease of breathing. You want to get something that's affordable. I recommend getting a balanced first stage. It just makes a big difference. And then getting something that fits comfortable in your jaw. You can get something, with a mouthpieces that kind of fit in the back, the Comfo Bite mouthpiece. So those other bells and whistles you can look into. But ease of breathing is your most important part about purchasing a regulator. So that's basically it for today. Go out, research if you're planning to buy a new regulator. Go online, check out the manufacturers. They will tell you all sorts of different things. And then talk to your local scuba shops. Talk to the instructors, talk to the people working in the shops. Find out what they like, what they use. It will make a difference. And then do your own research. And then when it comes down to it, it's your own ease of breathing and it's your own pocketbook, because you're the one who's paying for it. So that's it. If you have any questions about regulators, any suggestions in terms of something that you don't quite know about and you want me to go into more detail, you can leave in the comments down below. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel and share the videos with your friends. I put out a new video every Friday. I hope you have a great weekend, and no matter what it is you're going out there and you're doing, make sure you go out and find your passion.